Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story needs no introduction and is simply entitled Dogman. I'm from Michigan. Where? I can't tell you, duh. But this is important. I'm from a small town, which is scattered around my home state, and they really aren't uncommon. Ever since I was a kid and we moved away, I would spend the summer at my grandma's house. Now I'm fresh out of high school, and my gram had offered to have me come live up there for 6 months with her. My grandma is the toughest person I have ever met in my life. And when I say that, I mean it. She's skinny but strong and tall. She drinks beer and smokes like a sailor. She owns many guns and often goes out on her own hunting. Please bear with me. I know this is boring, but it's important. In Michigan, there is a myth of this thing called Dogman, kind of like a werewolf. It has the head of the dog and the body of a hairy man. Its eyes are said to either be blue or amber, and it walks on 2 feet, standing at a solid 7 feet tall. It shows up in 10-year cycles, sometimes with others, or sometimes alone. It's native to Michigan and stays there for some reason, and the stories and the legends have been around a long time. I remember my family joking around and telling me stories since, well, I was little. I think it's following me, and I know this sounds crazy. Maybe the fear has me hyped, but I've always been very open-minded when it comes to these things. It all started when my gram, as I call her, asked me if I wanted to go hunting with her. I have always been slightly scared of the woods, and they make me very uneasy, but knowing she was there made me feel safe. So I agreed, even though I didn't like the plan and really didn't intend on killing anything because that really wasn't my style. So the next week we packed up and headed out to a deer blind that my family often used. It was very deep in the woods and took an hour or so to walk in just to get there. When we got up, we settled in and started watching. When you're in a deer blind, you're supposed to be quiet, but I got really bored, so I started having small whispered conversations with my gram. I wasn't really looking for deer because I honestly didn't care, but a day out with her seemed really nice. She suddenly looked over at me and she shushed me, and my heart skipped a little at the thought of a deer finally showing up. I'd never done this before, but when my grandma pulled down the wooden cover for the entrance and put a hand over my mouth, I just knew something was wrong. Even being 18 years old, I had never, ever seen her this scared. She is a tough old bastard, so when I saw the troubled expression on her face, I started to panic. My heart was beating so fast, I thought it was going to burst. After what seemed like days, she finally let go of me, motioned for me to stay quiet and started packing up. She pulled the cover off, looked around, and we were on our way back. Our pace was way faster when we walked out there, and I constantly felt like looking behind my shoulder. I didn't know what we were afraid of, but I knew it was out there, and if she was scared, I sure as hell was. When we got home, I asked her what she saw, and she said that it was just simply a bear. Which I knew was a lie, but I let it go, forced myself to believe it, thinking I could lure myself into a false sense of security and just let it go. My gram never lied to me. She was always very straight. So when she did, I knew for sure when she wasn't telling the truth. I failed to mention earlier, but she owns a beautiful dog named Foster. That is a mix between a wolf and a husky. He is the biggest sweetheart ever, and never liked to come inside, so he lives outside in a small stone doghouse that was across from the guest bedroom window. That night I heard something that sounded like a scream from out in the woods. It was bone-chilling and terrifying. I'd never heard anything like it in my life. I could hear Foster start to growl. I quickly dismissed it as an owl and thought about looking out the window to see what he was growling about, but to hell with that. I'm totally a scaredy cat. After a while, his growling stopped and I managed to go to sleep. And I shit you not, just like a horror movie cliche, he was gone the next morning. At night we hook his collar onto a wire, which is attracted to a clothesline type thing that lets him run around but keeps him in a small radius. And it was fucking snapped, like he wanted to get away from something or something had gnawed it. And no, there weren't any scary big Dogman tracks outside my window, or anything for that matter. I asked if she wanted to go and see if we could find him, maybe rattle around his treat bag or something, and she quickly shut me down, saying he would be back and not to worry. But I was. How could she say that? The wire has never broken like that before, and she loves him to death, but thought she at least wants to know if he was alright. But much like the other instance, I quickly put it to the back of my mind with unease. Time skipped with me to a few days after that. Foster hadn't come back, but on the trees behind our house there was a huge gouge mark on some of the trees, which I pointed out to her, but she had dismissed it as a very large bear. The next few days, well, were pretty uneventful, except for the last night. I'm still shaking as I write this. I was laying down in hopes of drifting off to sleep when I heard it again. The scream that made me stop and freeze up. Terror seemed to course through the veins and seize me up, even making me hold my breath. The scream sounded again. Closer and closer again, where I swear it was in the woods right by our house. I thought of running to my grandmother, but I knew she would fake something and make me go back. I thought again about looking out the window, but I was so scared I don't think I could move my legs at that point. That's when the blinds went black. Since there are no cities around us, the light from the stars and the moon are pretty bright, and the window stays a faint blue. But the light was gone, and it was just black. I heard it. I fucking heard it. The guttural breathing that was on the other side of the window. I prayed that whatever it was wouldn't just smash the window and eat me up right there. I couldn't move a blink. I couldn't even cry. I knew that it knew I was in here. It scratched one time on the window. It was like nails on a chalkboard and let out that scream. It was so loud. It felt like I was right next to my ear. Before running away. I'm so shaky. I don't want to look and see what I know will be on that window. I'm afraid to sleep. Afraid to face tomorrow night. Ready to please help me. Any suggestions or insight would help me. I don't know what to do. I know it's not just a bear. It don't make that noise. I swear to God, nothing does. And I don't think it would be able to block out the whole window.